Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Yo, I bought this awesome mug at Alex's mom's house. It look, I got a mug and a bowl. No, it's at $20. But the mug is like it's like this big. I know.
This is a test. 1 2 3. Testing. 1 2 3. Testing for an echo. Testing 1 2 3.
Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day. Good morning, traders and investors. Welcome to this Monday, February 6th edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep. I'm Spencer Israel, here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick. Got a great show for you folks today. A lot of earnings to discuss. Some this morning, but we got a big week ahead of us on the earnings front. So we're going to talk about all the stocks reporting today. Hasbro, Lowe's, Fox is after the bell. We have Twitter later this week, GM. So we're going to get to as many of those as we can. We're also going to talk about what stocks were buzzing last night on social media around the Super Bowl. I know you're all watching that, and we were tracking that as well, thanks to the TD Ameritrade ad challenge. So we got a little bit of some insight onto what stocks people were talking about last night. We got two guests for you as well. Our first guest is at 8:15. He is Carl Swearinga. He's the owner of a site called Equity Stat. I think he's got a really cool platform for looking at the market. And then at 8:35, it is Monday, so we're joined by Tommy Lackey, the managing partner and portfolio manager at Relativity Capital Advisors. Joel, I know that you watched the game last night because of Brady.
Yeah, what a Super Bowl. Number 5, definitely the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Perpetuates the Michigan brand, too. That's always a good thing. And hope all of our traders and investors and not stay up too late watching that game because we got a busy day ahead, a busy week. And as we're speaking, the S&P 500 index futures are under pressure here. 94 even. Friday's high, that was also your all-time closing high. Pre-market high, 94 and a quarter. Pressure now trading on the lows of the session. Don't see a whole lot until we get in the middle 70 handle. You had a couple closes and your low from Friday. So we'll see what happens. Gold trading up here. That's probably due to some comments from Goldman Sachs, a little worried about the Trump administration policies. So gold and silver getting a little lift, and you talk about a level in crude oil, the $54 area. It's been knocking on the door here several times for another breakout, but the door hasn't been open. We'll see if that happens later in the week. Dennis, do they have the Super Bowl on in Canada?
Oh, I watched the Super Bowl. That was incredible. Fourth quarter by Brady. I mean, that is unbelievable. Everybody thought this game was over. The odds, the Vegas odds at the end of the third quarter were 99.5% that Atlanta wins. That's what the odds went to, 99.5. So it was a 0.5% chance. First, obviously, team to come back from that big of a deficit. We're talking in an entire playoff game. Like teams that were leading by 19 at the end of the third quarter were 93-0 in the playoffs in Super Bowl, or not in Super Bowl history, in playoff history. So just incredible. Like everybody had it written off. But then when you knew when it got to 28-20 and he's marching, I'm like, he's getting the 2-point conversion. They're getting this to overtime. He's going to score the touchdown the first drive. He was just in the zone then. Atlanta was in full panic mode. So I can't imagine being an Atlanta fan though. And I'm, we're Lions fans here, so we don't even get to get a playoff win ever. But I can't imagine being in the Super Bowl, being that close to winning it all, and then obviously at the end just basically choking. And I feel bad for the Atlanta fans.
Well, do you know who left the game early?
Did you leave the game early?
No. Mark Wahlberg was.
He was gone. Wahlberg was gone.
Yeah,
Why?
He blamed it on. He said his kids didn't feel well. The old kids.
He's like, this is over. I'm going to bed.
And then you know who also left their Super Bowl party early?
Who?
The President of the United States. He said he had enough, and he left with 8:57 to go in the third quarter.
Wow.
Wait, Trump wasn't there?
He had a Super Bowl party at his place. Yeah,
he left his own Super Bowl
I was going to say, you don't have to...
He had the Super Bowl party and he left his own at the White House.
You don't have to imagine what it's like to be a Falcons fan, because I think we have one on the show today, because Tommy Lackey lives in Georgia, so we're going to have to ask him.
Oh, Frankie 23. We're sorry, Frankie 23. We're getting the chat popping up. He's an Atlanta fan. Sorry, our condolences, Frankie 23.
All right, but let's move on here.
Let's talk the markets. We'll pick
Of
Frankie
course.
23 up here. So, show's dedicated to Frankie 23 and all the other Atlanta fans out there. We feel bad for you guys, but the show is going to pick you guys up here. And well, let's jump right over. Actually, should we talk the Super Bowl commercials a little
Yeah,
bit?
okay. So let's talk them. So I was watching this last night during the game. TD Ameritrade had a little ad challenge that they were running, where they basically were looking at social sentiment around the ads and the stocks connected to them in real time. So to give you a little bit of a breakdown here, we had Coca-Cola, which had a really good ad. Well, they always have good ads, but Coca-Cola had about 8,500 positive tweets about them last night during the game, and that was regarding their commercial. Volkswagen also had like 5,500 tweets. This is approximate. Procter and Gamble 5,500 positive tweets, and GM about 5,500. And then Anheuser-Busch had a little under 5. So Coke, Volkswagen, P&G, GM, and Budweiser were your winners last night, at least with regards to sentiment surrounding their commercials.
Well, it's interesting. Coke and GM are both trading in the green, despite the S&Ps being down a few. So maybe getting a little positive lift from the commercials, but I think that's probably going to be short-lived. Joel, what are you thinking?
A little pop,
I don't know if there's going to be much gas in these commercials. Not for Coke. It's Coke.
I don't think you'd be making any long-term investing decisions based on that. But just one note on that GM ad, that Dana, my daughter, works for Digitas, digital media firm. Their office was the one that came up with that ad with Cam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah, shout out to her. But I mean, what about Tiffany? Weren't you saying something about Tiffany?
Tiffany, interesting. Tiffany, so yesterday afternoon, news broke that their CEO is out, right, effective immediately. The CEO has stepped down. And then yesterday they ran their first commercial first commercial in 20 years that they've run, and it was during the Super Bowl. So within a span of a couple hours, their CEO gets shown the door, and then they run their first commercial in 20 years.
Interesting. Was the commercial good?
I don't know. I don't remember what it
I
was.
don't remember the Tiffany commercial. Do you
Yeah.
remember the Tiffany commercial, Joel?
No, I really didn't pay much attention to the commercials, but
You know what? I was trying to, but after the first quarter, then you're not paying attention to the commercials anymore. So, what about squares, Joel? Did you do any squares?
I did not. This year I decided to take a year off, but they did one at Benzinga, and Emily pulled out the third quarter. Emily Cash. So
I had the double zero. I had the double zero on the one square, so I got the first quarter, and I was actually halfway through. I had I think it was the 1-7, and then and then it ended up being 1-3. So I was close on that one. That was the drive by New England there, and I thought they were going to get a touchdown. I was like, I'm going to win the second one too, and then they obviously didn't.
where'd you do squares at?
Super Bowl party at my buddy's. I'd actually, it's Barron's Jewelers, the guy I talked to you about before that has 3D printing. He had a little party there, so we were over there.
Okay.
But, it was early, and I had my boy with me, too, who's a 2-year-old, and basically I'm just chasing him around the whole time. So trying to watch the game while I'm chasing my kid around who's going nuts.
All right, Tiffany, man, this stock is up near recent highs of the move at 85.44, but that's getting
back as a retailer.
Yeah, wow. It all makes you automatically want to short it if you would have seen that on Friday. But Tiffany trading down here. I don't know. Do we have odd lots trading here or what? Not much volume.
It's down. It's down, though, and it's offered down, so they're not liking this. But I'll tell you, it was lower before. We did kiss down to 74.84. That was on odd lots, down at 74.75. We're bid right here at 76.50, so we're on the comeback trail a little bit here on Tiffany. Last tick is 76, but bid 76.50. Nobody's hitting that bid right now. Best offer is 77.24. So it's looking like it's going to open down 3 to 4 points here, but there's some major support down there at that 76 level. You see there's a couple double bottoms there at the beginning of the. You got to think that 76 level might be your first, and obviously it's not a hard level. It takes that out, then it starts to open up again, but 76 could be your first bounce level.
That's where it's trading at right now. All right, so here we are on Monday, and earnings. We got some earnings to talk about.
And here Hasbro, and I don't know, look at the Hasbro after hours chart on Friday. Hasbro was getting the heck bit out of it on Friday night ahead of this report. And I was like, who's buying Hasbro up $3? And they were aggressively buying it up $3 Friday night. So now all of a sudden it comes up with a huge report. So I don't know who was bidding it up Friday night aggressively, but they bought a lot of stock Friday night from 83, 84, 85, and they just kept coming back and buying. So I'm not sure if they had any inside scoop on this earnings report, but they're making a lot of money here this morning because Hasbro was up $8.50.
Whoa!
Spencer, how did they do?
Hasbro reported Q4 EPS of $1.64 versus $1.27, so a nice beat. Revenue $1.63 billion versus $1.5, so they beat there as well. They also are raising their quarterly dividend from 51 cents per share to 57 cents per share.
So if you were fading this, when they hit it off Mattel, because Mattel obviously came out last week and had the disappointing report, and you can see on the Mattel chart that's actually a week and a half ago. Mattel gap down from 31 to that 26, 27 area that day. They hit Hasbro on that report too. Hasbro had closed the day up, or the previous day up at over $86 a share, 86.76, and then that day went all the way down to almost $80, got down to $80.22. But Star Wars, we're gonna give Star Wars the credit here for this report. Hasbro, anyways, is now up $8.50 on this solid report, so not taking the lead from Mattel because they have Star Wars.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. They were hitting it. It was, in a sympathy play, but they had the report coming up later. So you really, anybody that got caught selling there is in the hole now, trading at the highs of the pre-market session, folks. I don't know what to tell you. This is blowing away the former all-time high of 88.
All-time highs.
88.53. So there's going to be a pullback here. I don't know when and where. 91.80 your last trade, 91.99. I know if I had a few shares long here, I know I'd be throwing some offers out there, 92, 92.50, 93, 93 and a half, just to get a feel of how high they're going to take it, because this is way over the all-time high.
But a lot of sentiment coming into this thing was, now you come out, you blow it away. So I'm always scared to fade these things just off the hop. Get a feel, 90 was a big psychological hurdle. Let's see, if it holds that, starts coming back down through it, then, you can maybe play it that way. But as of right now, it's on the gas. And I mean, this is, the market that tends to go. And I've seen Hasbro, if you look even history of this, I can remember this thing running 10% lots of times off earnings reports and continuing to run too. So you just got to be careful fading this one, because this one does have a tendency to go when it wants to go.
All right, let's get another.
Tyson Foods.
Yeah.
Tyson Foods.
Oh, how is
the old chicken? Yeah, it's been a while since we talked about Tyson Foods. Remember, I had the big run up in the summer, and Joel and I could not understand it. We kept trying to fade, and we were fading too soon. I kept running. Eventually, it collapsed. But you know what? Those collapses are the times to buy. Got down to $55.72 back in November. Now you look at it, it's tacked on another 11 points, up $1.50 on their earnings report here from this morning. TSN, Spencer, how did they do?
Yeah, interesting. So Tyson reported Q1 EPS of $1.59 versus $1.26, and a revenue of $9.18 billion versus $9.05 billion. So they beat on the top and they beat on the bottom as far as guidance goes. Fiscal year 17 EPS of $4.90 to $5.05. That's in line with the $4.97 estimate. We also had on Friday, Cleveland Research came out cautious on the chicken industry following recent industry meetings, and don't forget there was also an avian flu. I don't know. I want to say outbreak, but an avian flu sighting a few weeks ago. So I remember that being brought up. But Tyson seems to be doing just fine.
It's on the comeback trail here. Kind of, I don't know, in the middle of nowhere. But if I'm looking at this chart, I can see major resistance up there at 70. That's where we were struggling back in November. But really, in this whole 67, how high did we get here at pre-market first of all?
Boy, it got way overdone here in pre-market trading. We made it high over $70 at $70.50.
Odd lot, though.
Yeah, that was an odd lot? Okay.
Yeah, it's an odd lot. So maybe we should strike that from the tape. The active trading's been in the 67 handle. A little bit of fun odd lot stuff going off there just after 8 o'clock up at 70.5, but that was pretty light.
All right, being afraid of heights here and seeing that the stock was in the unlike Lady Gaga, did you see her coming down at the beginning of the halftime, coming down from the roof?
I actually traveled during halftime, so I did not see the halftime show because I was at my buddy's Super Bowl party, and then Spencer's got to get to bed, so I wanted to get back to watch the third quarter. So I traveled during halftime, so I heard good about this Lady Gaga show, but I did not see it.
All right, we come from the middle 62 handle just as late as last Wednesday. Now you're trading in the upper 60 handle. I mean, if you get to 70, I see a couple daily highs there, but Man, nice run ahead of it. So for this just to keep going, you're going to need some really aggressive buying. Really to get to the bottom of the range or the top of the range from yesterday, 66.09. We're not too far from that. So let's keep an eye on 66. All right, Spencer.
Yep, 8:15. We're gonna go grab our first guest of the day, Carl Swearinga. He's the owner of Equity Stat, a nice little fintech company. He's got 20 years experience making software platforms, and Equity Stat is one of his first plays in the market. So we'll be right back, Carl.
Whether you're a short-term swing trader or a long-term investor, you need to check out Thinkorswim, brought to you by TD Ameritrade. There's a reason why Thinkorswim has been named the #1 trading platform, because it has it all. With Thinkorswim, you can trade stocks, options, futures, forex, and virtually every other type of order. Get notifications on mobile devices and interact with other traders in chat rooms. You can also use technical indicators and see the latest investing and trading education in Think Money magazine. If you want to keep up with the markets, you need Thinkorswim. To experience everything Thinkorswim has to offer, open a TD Ameritrade account today. Thinkorswim, the online trading platform for traders and investors. TD Ameritrade, member SIPC. All investing involves risks.
Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. I'm Spencer Israel, here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick. We're on the line with Carl Swearinga. He runs Equity Stat, is a fintech platform that we're going to talk to him about because I think he will be at the Benzinga, or I hope he'll be at the Benzinga Fintech Awards in May. So, Carl, thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Tell us a little bit about what Equity Stat is.
Well, Equity Stat is an online investment portfolio manager. It gives you the ability to manage your investments from one place. A lot of investors will have like several mutual funds. They'll have a brokerage account. They'll have a 401k. And what Equity Stat does is it brings all that information together in one place in an online investment portfolio. And that way, an investor can log into their account and they can get an up-to-date picture of how their investments are doing in real time.
So what happened in your life that prompted you to start this company?
Well, I'm an investor myself, and like I said, I had this problem where I owned, a mutual fund from Vanguard, a mutual fund from T. Rowe Price. I had a brokerage account. I had a 401k. And I didn't want to log into each of those accounts to see how my investments were doing. I wanted to go to one place and say, this is how my investments are doing. And I also wanted to get metrics on how each individual investment is doing, as well as a summary view of the account total, how the account is doing, how all your investments together are doing. And so that's why I developed Equity Stat.
And I guess what I interview a lot of entrepreneurs, and I listen to a lot of entrepreneur interviews, and one of the things that I'm always curious about is how did you know like what to do? How did you know where to start? Like, is this your first company that you've built, or like how did you, once you had this idea, like what did you do after that?
Well, I have a background. I have started several other web online companies. And so I've had a background in that business, and I wanted, being an investor myself, I'm also a software developer. So I said, okay, how do I want this application to work? What am I looking for an investor? And so that made it easy for me to develop this, and I knew what I wanted as an investor, so I figured other investors would want that as well.
And then, so what have you learned? Your product's been around now, I guess, what, 3 years? What?
Yes.
What have you learned about this market in that time? About is this a thing that people want? I mean, are you finding that they do want to have all their investments in one place?
Yes, I've gotten excellent feedback from our customers. A lot of people this is exactly what they're looking for. They want their investments all in one place. They want to see how their investments are doing, and they also want to view their investments on their tablets, on their desktop, and they don't. So I've been getting really good feedback about what they like, and I've been finding that it is a good tool for investors to have.
All right, Carl. How much is your service?
For right now, it's for free. We just started, and we're trying to get new users to use our service. So there's no charge at the moment for our.
And looking at it from like the quotes, live quotes are very expensive. The exchanges love to charge big money for that. If you have a platform, how does it work for the quotes?
Well, we use a quote service, and we go out and we get you log into your account, and we go out and get the latest market prices and update your account to reflect the latest market prices. And that's done all behind the scenes. There's nothing you have to do as a customer to get these quotes. It's all done for you.
All right, and I got your platform up here and the site. Welcome to Equity Stat. You can join now. Feature list. Is there anything in particular here that you'd like to show us? I don't have a sign in, but in the features, I have manage all your financial investments, track, generate tax reports. Talk a little bit about that feature.
Well, the generate tax reports will generate the IRS Form 8949, and what that will do is it'll show your short-term gains and your short-term gains and losses and your long-term gain and losses. So if you sold any investments in the previous tax year, you can print out that form and you can give it to your tax preparer, and it'll help you fill out your Schedule D.
Hey, Carl.
So
keep going. Sorry.
So what that does is it's smart enough to go and say, these are the investments I sold in 2016, and these are my short-term gains or losses, and these are my long-term gains and losses. And the report will calculate all that for you.
I would imagine that using Equity Stat, the first thing that jumped out to me when I learned about it is that it would make rebalancing easier. Right, because you have everything in one place. Are you finding has that been the case for you personally, where you've just been finding it's easier just to rebalance the fact that you can see everything all on one screen?
Yes, one of the things we do show you is we show you all of your holdings and the percentage of those holdings in your portfolio, and so you can tell as your holdings grow in value, you can tell, okay, this investment. This investment is taking up a greater portion of the portfolio, and I may need to sell this investment and reinvest in other things. So it does give you a good picture of how to rebalance your portfolio.
And Carl, you're going to be at the FinTech Awards. In what category are you in?
I believe we're in the application section.
All right. Well, good luck there. If there's any questions in the chat, you should pop them in right now. We've been on the line with Carl Swearinga. He's created a great new product here to track your investments. EquityStat at EquityStat.com. Check it out. It's free. And also, it's developed by investors for investors. So any input from Carl from our skilled group, I'm sure you'd like to hear about it. Thanks a lot, Carl, and we'll speak to you again soon.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
All right. Still leaking here in the S&Ps. Luke on the news desk mentioned there was some rumblings coming overseas here. Maybe some talk in Europe is disrupting the market. While we were on the phone, too, here, traders that had longs and Tyson Foods decided to take some profits here.
Went red.
Yeah, it did. We had chicken. I mean, come on, Dennis. Look at the run up ahead of
Don't call me chicken. Oh, sorry.
Look at that run up. I mean, look at we were 62.5. Lower 62s. You could have bought this thing on Wednesday up near 70. And Hasbro. Did Ace get down and dirty in that? I think you got a little pop. See if you're getting any kind of a pullback in Hasbro. Maybe a little bit attributed to the market. But nope, still at the highs of the session. It hit 92.80 at 92.25. A lot of green there in Hasbro.
Couple other stocks here. Ace was talking about this one too. Is GALE. That is your big mover of the day. It's trading up 105% here this morning. So getting a huge lift here after it. I don't know if it had a reverse split or what it had when it went back in November. It must have been like a big reverse split from the old dry ship style when it went from 20 cents up to $4. Well, I don't know if this is full of dry ships or not, but it's been leaking here for the last 2 months. Now all of a sudden, boom! Must have said something good overnight here, Spencer. What did GALE have to say?
First, I'm looking at November, and I actually don't see anything. It was around the 21st, right? And I don't see anything notable there. So anyway, back to this morning.
It looks like a reverse split.
Okay,
I don't follow the company, but it looks like a reverse split.
All right, back to this morning. They reported positive outcome for the board monitoring their drug Nuvax, and both trials were deemed not futile. So I guess that's good.
Wow, what a
Good enough. Good enough to squeeze a few shorts.
Yeah, what a ringing endorsement there. I'll just give you your stats here. Pre-market high 264. You've backed off there. There was quite a few highs at 2 and just above 2. So right now, keying on that pre-market high at 264. Going basis the daily chart, you see a big move up here when a big gap to fill, reverse split. I don't know. This reminds me of dry ships, so I don't know. I think this one I won't be too active in today.
Where is the dry ships? Oh, back to $4. Had a rough Friday. The pop, and then the drop. And now it'll probably drop for, 20 out of 22 days in a row? Is that what dry ships was down before?
Oh, I can't remember the statistics, but it did
That stock, that's just craziness. Anyway, we won't start a dry ships show here. Jump over. What did Barron's have to say? Did you read Barron's this weekend?
Guess what was on the cover, Dennis?
What?
Snapchat. No, it wasn't.
Big old thing of like a broken burrito. Remember we were talking about CMG?
Oh,
yeah. And they were just like, oh, my Lord, how can this thing come back? Well,
that's what I keep saying, too. Even, and, obviously I wish I would have been trading what I was saying on Friday when I was getting a lift. And I'm like, I don't get it. This is not a great report. We were saying if you rewound the tape to Friday, but they wanted to buy it. They were giving it a pass. And I was like, I don't know why they keep giving this company a pass. I guess they didn't, because they turned around and slammed it then all day Friday. And now it looks like it's getting the Barron's drop.
Yeah, it wasn't nice. I mean, 396.50 is where we're trading in the pre-market. That earnings report that we talked about wasn't anything great. Now you've taken out that 400 psychological level, so you could see.
The conference call wasn't great either. Remember, Spencer, we were talking about that too, and some of the comments coming were like, they didn't seem that optimistic to me coming from from the company itself.
Let me see if I can go back and find some of those.
Go grab a few of these comments here, because I remember just reading the comments as they were popping up in the Benzinga Pro, and I was like, "Is that like?" And I'm watching it rally on, and I was like, "Really?" I'm like, I don't really get it, but usually the markets, it's hard to argue with the market, but I'm going to the
Here we go. So
you have a couple good ones.
So I found, let me see, when asked about the timing of their 20% run rate in margins, the CFO suggested it's going to be hard, but he didn't want to peg it to one particular quarter.
Good.
On their ability to recover margins, it's highly contingent on how we perceive comms from here on out. I'm not really sure what
not good either.
What that means.
I mean, these comments that they're saying, these are when you're commenting, when the CFO is commenting on their own company, they're gonna, after the results weren't that great, you think there'd be a little more, but this is very vague. When you're vague as coming from a CFO, that tells me you aren't very confident. Keep going. What else do they say?
Nothing really that jumps out to me, honestly. I think
I feel good about the comp trend. We're holding our own. And then new restaurants are performing at about 74% of other restaurants. Is that good?
I don't.
Is that a good number?
I don't know.
The new restaurants only performing
I don't know,
at
honestly.
It doesn't sound good to me. I don't know anything about this, when new restaurants are opening. But I always thought when the new restaurants open, they outperform the other restaurants. Maybe not.
They showed the other thing. If you get the Barron's, they showed their their earnings and stuff, and I mean this thing took it was making some decent money, and then it just took a haircut and plunge. So I mean, how quickly can you can you recover from something like that? I mean, it's hard. And when a stock's out of favor, I think this is something that we've talked about quite a bit. It's just, it's hard. It's hard. Even if they clean everything up, and the key of the article was, it's going to be very expensive to do that. They use a lot of like organic, products and stuff like that, which is expensive. So CMG, not on my buy radar. Anything else from Barrington?
Well, did you read the Snap article? Snapchat?
Yeah, they said they're never going to make money. Is that InstaSnap or is that Snapgram? What one is that?
What? Snapchat? I don't even know what. What did you just say? Snapchat.
Still trying to be funny.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Thanks,
it
Dennis.
wasn't funny. I got it. No, the CEO of Snapchat last week, Evan Spiegel, said that that they are not and they may never become profitable. He actually said that. So
When we may never become profitable. That was the comment?
That's what he said.
What? And what? We're going to get a $3 billion
Then why are they
All
IPOing?
right. I'll go and find it for you so I get the quote
Find
exactly
this.
right.
Well,
I'll
this
go
is
and find it.
ridiculous. What do you mean you're never going to become profitable? Well, what the hell are you coming public for? We come to Wall Street to make money. I don't get it anymore, Joel. I don't get it. This market is starting to get just to ridiculous. Let's buy. Well, we'll see what happens with the IPO, but they really say that? We may never become profitable? What?
Well, they lost $514 million in 20.
They all lose money off the bat, though.
in
But isn't the
2016.
whole point of being in a business to eventually
Okay.
have some profits, especially when you got to be listed?
All right, the quote is, may never achieve or maintain profitability. That's the quote.
What? Joel, have you ever heard anything like that from a company that's going to be listed on Wall Street?
No. Is this symbol going to be Snap? SNAP?
I think so.
They
Yeah.
did
Well, that's a
that.
good symbol, at least.
Right. So, all right. Well, moving on,
That's
Dennis. We're
ridiculous.
jumping
I
all.
don't even want to talk about it anymore after that quote. That's ridiculous. Now, obviously, if they don't want to go into profitability, I'm not going to be buying the stock either. So, but Wall Street will probably go crazy all over it anyways. So, Ben balances. Let's look here quickly. Actually, the financials are weak here this morning, so you're looking for weakness. But there's a few buy imbalances out there. Bank of America 372,000 to buy is significant here. It's only trading down 9 cents here, but we'll have to see. Lots of time for other institutions to come in. But just since that 8:30 number even came out, starting to get a little bit of a lift here at BAC. Also, Citigroup 32,000 to buy, which is interesting as well. Coca-Cola, 50,000 to sell despite having the good Super Bowl commercial. A little sell and bounce in. Coca-Cola, Eli Lilly standing out because it's 35,000 to sell, and that's a big number for Eli Lilly. Also, DuPont, Double D, 50,000 to sell in DuPont. So there's a few here, none really standing out. Travelers Group, here's a big one because $117 stock that doesn't, isn't usually that liquid off the open. Travelers is 44,000 to sell here this morning, TRV. So that might be one to put on your radar for opening the opening as well.
DC1 talking about gold. Gold's having a nice pop. I mentioned at the top of the show. Goldman Sachs said maybe take a look at that with the Trump uncertainty. Gold may not be a bad investment. And going back to Friday here, Bob Wire went short to KRE. Got that big boost off potential changes in the Dodd-Frank law. Dennis, Bob Wire wants to know what you think of the bank move on Friday.
I'm torn because here you are, and this has been a strong sector, and all the money managers sitting there waiting for an excuse to jump back in, and Trump gave them that excuse. I mean, I'm going to tear up Dodd-Frank. I mean, if he does any, deregulation, and starting to get the Dodd-Frank out of there, the banks have been handcuffed to a certain extent. I don't think it's to the extreme where Trump is saying, my friends can't get loans, and I even tweeted something out over the weekend from Liz Moyer where she was saying, well, lending is at all-time highs according to the one stats that she gave, so, maybe there's not some truth to that. But, you start thinking if they're going to let the banks start get back into prop trading or start to do some other things, we don't know what he's planning on, tearing up from Dodd-Frank. But the whole thing was after the financial crisis, Dodd-Frank came in there to kind of control, the wild west of banking. And if he's going to allow it to come back to that, I mean, that's why we've had the 20-30% run up since Trump has gotten in these banks. And now he's come out and said it here again. So that's why he got a big lift. So I'm not surprised that we jumped up on Friday on those Trump comments. I don't know what to make of it, though, because I don't know how much he can just tear up. I mean, we saw what happened with his, Muslim ban. And, I think, it's not going to be that easy for him to just start tearing Dodd-Frank and throw it out.
Just interesting you made that comment. I was talking with a buddy of mine about Trump, and he said, being president of the United States is a lot different than being president of a company. You're president of a company.
Yeah.
Do this, you're fired. when you're president of the United States, there's a little bit more, checks and balances. So that goes along with that. Before we go to Tommy Lackey, we're going to look at Exxon Mobil for downward dog. The stock's been under a lot of pressure as of late. The only thing I can see is here's the potential double bottom. If I'm trying to pick a bottom in the issue and go long term, I'd look at the two lows under 83 here, a pair of lows at 82.54 and 55. That's your bogey, a buck above it. If not, I don't think I'd want to be in it. On the upside here, you have a 3-day high at 84.16. All right, 8:35. We're going to bring in our final guest of the day, and that's Tommy Lackey and Relativity Advisors. We'll be right back with Tom.
Whether you're a short-term swing trader or a long-term investor, you need to check out Thinkorswim, brought to you by TD Ameritrade. There's a reason why Thinkorswim has been named the #1 trading platform, because it has it all. With Thinkorswim, you can trade stocks, options, futures, forex, and virtually every other type of order. Get notifications on mobile devices and interact with other traders in chat rooms. You can also use technical indicators and see the latest investing and trading education in Think Money magazine. If you want to keep up with the markets, you need Thinkorswim. To experience everything Thinkorswim has to offer, open a TD Ameritrade account today. Thinkorswim, the online trading platform for traders and investors. TD Ameritrade, member SIPC. All investing involves risks.
Welcome back, traders and investors. Tommy is not feeling too well this morning. I don't know.
Can't reach him.
Can't reach him. I don't know if he stayed out too late at a Super Bowl party here, but anyways, we're going to move on with the show here on a Monday morning. S&Ps continue to be under pressure this morning. Now down 5 3/4 points. I don't know if you guys follow the intraday low at all. Dennis, can we just do a quick talk about that? How I like to follow the 24-hour market versus the daily market. Dennis knows what I'm talking about. But for other traders here, I like to follow the 24-hour market. Basically trading for Monday, starts Sunday at 6 p.m. For the remainder of the week. The following trading session starts the preceding day. So I like to keep an eye on the 24-hour market as well as the ID, and also on some platforms such as TradeStation. You can get just the intraday market, and that's what a lot of people trade as well. So going into that, Friday's intraday low. So from now on, when I say intraday low, that's a low that takes place between 9:30 a.m. and 4:15. And your intraday low from Friday was 83 even. The current low is 84. So it's a good number. I just don't put as much significant on as like the Globex low. Now, if you look at the Globex low or the 24-hour low from Friday, it's way down at 20, 70, 50. So different levels there. I just want to throw that in. We are appearing on that, or bearing down on that 22.83 is 84 even, stands as the current low. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Thursday closes if we do back that area right at the 22.75 level.
Continuing to leak here on the S&Ps, and like I said, there's a few sell inbounds here this morning, but what is really strong here, just talking the gold again, with gold getting the huge lift. The gold miners, I was just looking at some charts while we were on break there. Barrick Gold has had, and it's funny, you talk about this, but 2016, if we just go back to 2016, remember we had the huge run up in gold in January and February, and we're seeing the same thing again in 2017. We've had a huge run up in the gold miners here in January and February. Barrick, started the year down at 16, is trading at 19. That's a nice little move for ABX. Goldcorp started the year around 14, trading 16.5. Newmont Mining, NEM's not up quite as much, but started 33. It's trading in the 37 handle. Agnico Eagle Mine started the year right around 42, 43 bucks, up to 49. So it's kind of a repeat of 2016 to a certain extent. A little bit of uncertainty after a couple of weeks of January. Then we had a significant sell-off in the overall market. But, if we're following 2016's lead here, gold miners could have a ways to go.
Yeah, I'm playing the silver right now a little bit. I just kind of, I cleared 17. Look at the this was slash SI for the silver market, and it just looked like they just clung to the 1750 level. I have a new strategy. When a stock gets up to resistance and it hangs up there and doesn't pull back, I actually try buying it, saying, wow, it's taking out resistance, and that's what it's doing. Now, you got a big old bar between 1750 and 1850. I can remember that date back in November, but, 18 is a possibility, 1850. Also, gold. I know they just rolled the contracts, but things were being capped at 1220, 1222 area. Now that's been taken out. So if you're going on, classic support and resistance here, instead of looking at the fundamentals, you can see the area where both gold and silver have broken out here. Gold, that move, that big down move that it has, got a little bit more back. That would be closer to the $1,300 level.
Jumping over to the ratings parade here, because we have a few here
There's
this
some big
morning.
ones.
What's jumping out at you, Spencer? Ratings.
I saw a U.S. Steel upgrade, which, at Argus, which is to a buy. I saw J.P. Morgan upgrading COG to overweight. What else did I see going through the list right
A
now?
couple airlines upgraded Bernstein. We got Delta going up to outperform. We got American Air, AAL, which is going from underperform to market perform. So a couple airlines. One jumps out too here. We haven't talked about this one in a long time. FedEx. FedEx getting upgraded to outperform at Raymond James here. Here's a stock that, is had a huge run in 2016 there, and then we got up over $200, big psychological hurdle there. And it's kind of been a weak, market for FedEx since. Had the little run up there just, a week and a half ago, and then kind of gave it back very quickly. But getting a pop up here again. We're up $1 here on FedEx this morning. Joel, quick technical thoughts, FDX.
I'm not running out to buy this thing here. I can see that we came down. I believe that was off the earnings report. Really not trading up much off that upgrade, but you also have a negative S&P market working against you too here.
Yeah.
Just eyeballing it here, just looking at the chart, I'd say 185. You've had a couple lows in that area after the report, a couple lows before the report. So if I was trying to hold this like really long term, I'd say, man, I'm just going to hold on here. We're $3.50 above support. But if it takes out 185, looks like some pretty good real estate down to the 180 level.
Also, sound the alarm. NVIDIA has been downgraded by Roth.
Who downgraded?
Roth Capital to neutral. Sound the alarm.
We're not allowed to downgrade NVIDIA. NVDA. This stock's been on the comeback trail too. AMD. We talk about how AMD and NVIDIA, for whatever reason, people are pairing these two together. AMD made new highs on the move. So bouncing right back, obviously, after the significant sell-off in the first 2 weeks of 2017. Boom, you go from 9.5, we're right back into the 12 handle here. And NVIDIA's come back as well, within striking distance of that all-time high when it really got overdone. Then we had the big key reversal day there back on the 28th of January when we almost touched up the big psychological hurdle of 120. We're 113.71, we're down 67 cents. Roth really isn't that influential there, not to, punish Roth or anything, but it's not like one of the big houses downgrading you here this morning. So you got a little pullback here in NVIDIA this morning.
All right. You could do a figure retracement. It's definitely back over the 50% retracement. They do have a report coming up this week. $100, 100 to 120. That high was 119.93 when Andrew Left put the kibosh on that rally, but it's hung in there. Now coming back, looking at the daily charts here in NVIDIA, you do have a double top to deal with. The highs from the last two sessions right next to each other at 115.74 and 115.90 if that goes into rally mode. Thank you, Bob Wire. Reports on Thursday. Also, for your AMD fans here, AMD has been on a nice run after the earnings here. Starting a red candle after two great up days here. 1266, that's the high of the move. So I would be keeping a real close eye on that. If it doesn't take that out and continue through the 13, I'd be worried a little bit about giving some back. And, read the AMD article in Barron's yesterday, and they really talked up the CEO. Her name is Lisa Su. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but when I worked on the floor, I had a clerk named Lisa Su. And she was a really smart girl, and she went to MIT. And I think this Lisa Su went to MIT, too. What do you think the chances are that it's the same girl that I work with on the floor?
We should find out.
I am. I think I'm going to do that LinkedIn thing. And then
Get us some inside scoop.
Do
What?
do that LinkedIn thing, Joel. You do it.
Spencer is looking very skeptical that it's the same person. Spencer is shorting me on this one. I could tell.
I might show you on this one too.
And actually, I mentioned it to Ace, and he would. You guys kind of skeptical too. So maybe I'll just do a big dinner bet. You three can take me out to dinner if in fact
You already
does.
owe me 2 steak dinners, and you owe me 2
I
lunches.
know.
I think now you're in debt, man. And you're
I'm-
digging yourself a
is it-
hole with those dinners.
All right, 8:45. Still have 15 minutes left here before we wrap up the show.
Earnings. Let's do a little bit of earnings preview
I was
here for
about to
this,
say
because
that. I was about to say that, and speaking of Super Bowl, I wanted to
It's
look
psychic,
at
Spencer.
I wanted to look at Fox A, because they report today after the bell, and they are looking for, what is the estimate there? The estimate for Fox is 49 cents per share on revenue of $7.72 billion.
These traditional media companies have been on a little bit of a run here. You know, you look at Fox, and if you want, there's 2 stocks out there. They all have 2 stocks for some reason, the media companies, the big ones anyways. Fox and Fox A. So if you want to look at Fox A, back in October, $24, $31. If you want to look at Viacom, VIAB, back, just in December, we were at $34. We're $42 here in Viacom now. CBS is another one. It's had a pretty good run here. Back in October, this was like down near $50. Trading near 64. So these traditional media companies here are performing pretty well.
Yeah, and let's just go to Fox, who's due to report. Highs in the move here, right now, just above $31. You've had someone, it wants a lot of a little bit of a stock out of the report or get out of stock ahead. Looking at the dailies here, folks, you got a great number on the upside. You got an exact double top at 31.30. That was from Wednesday and Friday. Thursday's high at 31.23. So keep an eye out there. See if that seller is still there.
So Tuesday, we're going to get, in the morning, we're going to get General Motors. We're also going to get Michael Kors, also Spirit Airlines. But then at night, we got some big guns. The House of Mouse is going to report, Disney, Gilead, Buffalo Wild Wings. And I ate at Buffalo Wild Wings this weekend. You know what? I'm starting to actually like Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'd ate there before and had a bad experience. And the last couple times I went there, it's been pretty good. So, I don't know. It's BWLD.
Aren't the wings
I'm liking the wings there.
kind of wimpy? They're kind of wimpy.
You were saying they were wimpy. I think they're that bad. Well, one sauce I had, I tried the different sauces. Then the honey garlic sauce was not maybe my favorite, but I thought the wings were okay.
Well, I'm sure yesterday is probably their busiest day of the year, so but that trade,
I didn't eat there yesterday. I ate there Friday night.
That trade could be played out by now though, because everyone knows that yesterday is like the biggest day of the year for Domino's, for Papa John's, for Buffalo Wild Wings. So if you're looking to play the Super Bowl trade, I think you may have missed it.
All right, I've been keeping a real close eye on Disney here because you took out a big level at 110, and we had talked about the multiple highs going up at that area. It took it out, stalled at 111.99 here, so big institutional selling at that level. We mentioned that a couple weeks ago, but it was taken out. A lot of times, Dennis, we've seen when an institution is at a level or a group of institutions and they're selling stock, maybe they're not next day or 2 days or a week or a month, but, later on down the line, it seems to be pretty good calls.
Sometimes the big money actually knows what they're doing, so sometimes following that big money can be a call. I mean, it's been a pretty impressive run. Disney, they were all throwing it out back in 90, and I think a lot of it attributed to Star Wars. I mean, me and Spencer have attributed this to Star Wars. It's up over 25%, and the movie was pretty good. So, have they milked that Star Wars for as much as they can? Maybe not, but I don't know if I'm coming in here. It's up 20 points here in 2 months. It's up too much for me to chase it.
All right, Downward Dog is looking at Aqua America Inc. here, and this stock has come down and had a consolidation. Let's see if we can look at it. Just a sleeping giant here, I guess.
WTR.
Yeah, 29.5 to 30.5. You've been in that trading range here since the end of November, actually the middle of November. So I kind of see how that plays out. I see a couple tops above 30.50. But if you look at it, man, a lot of stock trading in between those two areas. Maybe look for a potential catalyst, a driver. Also, I looked at this. Let's look at this on a monthly here and see if it has the same chart. Yeah, I mean, you could do a little. This is the weekly, a little bit of a wedge here, right, Dennis? Or just rising wedge. So see which way it breaks out of that. And on the monthly here, you still have that too. So this thing is winding up. We'll see which way it decides to go.
Also in the chat, Downward Dog talking about Twitter, and we are going to hear from Twitter this week. I believe it's Thursday night, so just going and just checking that right now. I believe Thursday, and I'm going for my goldfish memory, so I
Wow.
forget very quickly, even though I already mentioned on the pre-market show. Oh, it's Thursday morning.
Yep.
Actually, they're due to report Thursday morning here for Twitter. So it's winding up too. I mean, you're sitting here just under 18. This was an old support zone. You subscribe to the theory, old support becomes new resistance. 18 is where we've struggled the last couple of days, just under there, 1792, 1786, 1785. It gets above 18, and you never know. Maybe you get a few people nervous about the report, but like you said, Joel, they have reported it okay before, and they never seem to get a lift though.
1785 to 92. That represents your last three highs. Might as well call it 18 as the big resistance. Really, maybe we'll try and track down Sean because I know he's been looking for a good quarter here. Traffic maybe during the election will be the boost here, but seems like, Dennis, you talked me out of this a lot with what the exact valuations are here. Also,
I hope they want to make money one day. I hope they're not like Snapchat.
Charlie Gasparino comes on
Thursday night, he's been.
Thursday, and
But Gasparino a few times has come out and said, "Oh yeah, there's chatter in Twitter." It's kind of like you call what is that? You call in Wolf, so many times, and then people aren't listening as much. So he tweeted that out. That's what you can see the spike on Thursday night. He tweeted out. Gasparino saying there's chatter here again, basically that somebody could be talking up Twitter here, and it went from 1750 up to 1780, but then nothing materialized on Friday and it came right back. So I don't know if I'm following Gasparino that much and if he's that connected or not.
well, he also says it's it's going to be a take under. It's something like 14 or 15, and
No, did he say that?
yeah, he did.
I
He
didn't
did.
know that.
Yeah, that was when he was on the tube, I believe, during the day on Wednesday or Thursday, and
Oh,
I mean that was some of the original rumors there. When it got back up to that 25 and a quarter, that companies were interested, at much lower prices, and that brought it down. But when it push comes to shove, what you need is a good earnings report. Show people you're making money. Twitter here has been interesting with the earnings, and this really hasn't seemed to help at all. Let me see if I can pull it up here on my trusty.
but really, how much have they ever made in a quarter? I mean, they beat they beat the estimates. What did they make? Like 5-6 cents? What did they make last quarter?
This would be a good time to bring up our trusty Benzinga Pro here
Bring it
and
up.
show you what you're looking at. Last quarter, they made 13 cents. Actually, 13
Some money.
I mean, they've never missed. It's a company that's never missed, had one inline report, and I guess
So some MAUs killing them though.
yeah, may use. I bet you that popped up because of the election here. Also looking for their biggest revenue quarter. Estimates at Wall Street stand at 740.17 million. Their previous best quarter was 709. So they're looking for their best quarter. As far as revenues go, but man, that's not a lot of money, 740 million. And their best EPS was back in Q4 of 2016. They made 16 cents versus 12-cent estimates, but no love, and they've talked these numbers down quite a bit. So we'll see if they can beat lowered expectations.
Valuation still scares me on Twitter. I'm sticking with my bearish thesis just because I think the valuation is just a little bit still too much. Like, I look at it and really, when we were talking before, I think we talked, a month or two ago, when you're comparing the valuation of Twitter on a market cap to the traditional media companies, if you're thinking it's, more of a, going into that route, but we're just more of a media company, the valuation's scary here because you got companies like Viacom and Fox, and, even, obviously Disney's, a lot more than a media company, but they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Twitter doesn't. And when you look at it from a multiple perspective, you're comparing it to those companies. It's scary. You compare it to different companies like Snapchat or whatever, or Facebook and other social media companies. The valuation doesn't look scary. You compare it to media companies, the valuation looks scary. And I'm calling it a media company, and I am scared of that valuation.
And just exact opposite, Facebook, who IPO'd in May of 2012, they went from revenues of 1.15 billion last quarter to $1.49 billion.
Wow.
They meant from making 12 cents in their or 9 cents in their first quarter to having their best quarter last quarter of $1.41. So tail the tape that really tells the truth here on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be all waiting for that report.
Also on Thursday, you're going to hear from NVIDIA. We've already talked. You're going to hear from Pandora. You're going to hear from Coke, CVS, Expedia. It's a huge day on Thursday. Yelp's also going to report as well. And then on Friday, if we're just jumping to the Friday reports, there's not a ton. Actually, Friday's pretty quiet. A lot of little mid caps there. But we missed Wednesday. I don't know why I skipped over Wednesday. Wednesday, you're going to hear from Whole Foods. You're going to hear from Yum. You're going to hear from Allergan. Here's an interesting one, AGN, because AGN has been on a 3-day, 4-day tear. This thing got down to like 209, and I'm looking here at Allergan now, and I bought this thing, I was thinking I like it down at 190, and I bought it back in November. Now it's sitting up here at 230. It's in my longer term portfolio. I still like it longer term there, but this is a pretty big run pretty quickly here now. You're talking about 40 points in a month. I'm itching to take the gain. Just give me a reason to take it.
I don't know. I mean, someone was willing to pay mucho dollars for this company.
Pfizer.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah,
I'll pay over $300 for this.
Yeah. Actually, I'd hit 340.34. I don't know, Dennis. I mean, instead of trying to take a profit with it, give yourself a mental stop. You see how it moves on the earnings report, but really a nice run here. This is a monthly chart, so showing some strength. Of course, a lot of things can happen on earnings reports. Bases the daily charts in Allergan. You do have a couple highs over 240. Looks like in the 243, 244 area. That's still $13 away.
Okay, overall market thoughts here, because we only got a couple minutes left. I always like to finish with the overall market thoughts, at least my own market thoughts. S&Ps are weak here today. Where I'm seeing weakness is still in the banks. I'm seeing them trade down here. They're pretty weak here. Maybe a little bit of profit taking from Friday as well, although there's still some buy imbalances there. So there could be an opportunity if a bank opens a little bit too high and the financials are overall weak, there might be that opportunity. Just jumping over here, that's what's really standing out. Like we said already, the gold miners are very strong here this morning. They're the ones that are standing out the most green. And then you got a lot of mixed. You got a lot of stocks that are mixed here. You got a few of the media companies trading up. Coke's up a little bit here this morning. Macy's has been resilient here the last few days. Yeah, Macy's has been really flying. I mean, that was a huge day for Macy's. And there's just rumors here. We talked about it. We had actually talked about this on Thursday, just when we were down $30. Wish I would have bought it, when we were first hearing the rumors in the Benzinga Pro. And now it's all the way up here at $34.37 it got to on Friday. Trading up at 33. I mean, it's just sniffing around that the stock is potentially in play. So I think it got overdone on Friday. I think when it got up to 34.37, I mean, you're talking about a huge move. Right off the hop, there was rumors there. And that thing went from $30 to $34 in a matter of minutes. And then obviously nothing's materialized since then, so it starts to leak a little bit. But I don't know. Do you see somebody coming in here buying Macy's?
I mean, it's your Canadian company, Hudson Bay.
That was the rumor, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
But they got their own problems, Hudson Bay.
Yeah, I looked it up. They have Lord and Taylor, Sexus. I don't know. I mean, maybe they see something in the real estate or a better way to run the company.
There's definitely real estate value there. There's the argument. That's always been the argument for Sears. It's been the argument for a lot of, the traditional retailers, the ones that actually own the real estate. So there's some value there. But that being said, everybody's buying stuff online. Is there really that kind of value in these big box, real estate, models?
Risk off day. Bob Wire is asking Dennis. Risk off day.
I think so. At least risk off open. Things can change here. So if I'm, playing it here, I'm looking at the banks. We get a little bit of, if we get an open a little bit too high on some of the banks, I might try to short a few of them. If you get, some of these stocks pulling back, like we already said, with Coke, that's a defensive stock. So it can actually have a good day on a risk off day if risk off continues. Obviously, if S&P futures turn, then all that bet is off. But that's how I always approach it. Every single trade day, I kind of start my day the same way. I have all my sectors up there. I'm looking at the pre-market at 7 a.m., at 7:30, at 8 o'clock. What kind of trend do I see? Do I see money kind of moving out of risky assets? That's what I'm seeing today. I'm seeing it kind of move out of riskier assets here. That's telling me it's at least going to be a risk off open. And then I start to position myself and say, okay, I want to be selling more risky assets and buying some of the defensive, stocks. If you get a stock like Procter and Gamble, that might open down on the day, because it just moves sometimes so well with the S&P. Sometimes, it can open at the lows and get a nice lift here because money starts to fly into those sectors. Coke is on my radar here. It had decent Super Bowl commercials, trading up a little bit in the pre-market, but it's a 70,000 share selling balance. So maybe you get a chance to buy Coke on the flat, and maybe it gives a good 10, 15, 20 cent lift. I mean, when you're going to Coke, you're going for, a a dime, 15 cents. These are short-term scalping trades. But, when I'm trading this, I always say, my best stocks are the most boring stocks because, when I'm wrong, I'm losing a nickel. I'm not losing a ton. And you can put on some size in a stock like Coke. You can go in there and you can, it's fairly liquid with a few thousand shares. Where, you used to go into some of these other stocks off the bat. If you got 3,000 shares in NVIDIA or 4,000 shares in NVIDIA, good luck trying to, to move that out. At least in the first few minutes, it's very difficult. So I like the liquidity that I get in a stock like Coke.
Final note on wind. It is trading up here in the pre-market. Got close to $99. Had a good report and came back in. Yeah, I heard the same thing. I heard the big money was on Atlanta and the under, and it turned out to be Pats and the over. So maybe Vegas making a little money back. I know they got hurt in some of the other things. So wind trading up, but boy, you're probably going to find some sellers on that if you go into rally mode too, because it's really come back hard after its report. All right, 9 o'clock a.m. Spencer, you want to wrap up the show and preview Tuesday's show?
We got two guests for you tomorrow. First is Ben Axler. He's founder of Spruce Point Capital. They are a short seller firm, so they're going to talk to us about what stocks they are shorting, and then also it's Tuesday, so we're going to have Nick Shaheen on the show. That's it for us today. Hope you enjoyed our chat with Carl and our market talk, and have a good rest of your day. Just want to remind you that all the information, material, and content from our show is for informational purposes only and not meant to be investing advice. Have a good rest of your day, everyone, and we'll be back with you on Tuesday.
Whether you're a short-term swing trader or a long-term investor, you need to check out Thinkorswim, brought to you by TD Ameritrade. There's a reason why Thinkorswim has been named the #1 trading platform, because it has it all. With Thinkorswim, you can trade stocks, options, futures, forex, and virtually every other type of order. Get notifications on mobile devices and interact with other traders in chat rooms. You can also use technical indicators and see the latest investing and trading education in Think Money magazine. If you want to keep up with the markets, you need Thinkorswim. To experience everything Thinkorswim has to offer, open a TD Ameritrade account today. Thinkorswim, the online trading platform for traders and investors. TD Ameritrade, member SIPC. All investing involves risks.